because I just wasn't interested in like, how does the mitochondrial DNA affect a cell? And I just
right.
You know, so it was like I had these. My grades were fine in the end, whatever. But the things I was interested in, I'd go, just like you in podcasting, I'd just go nuts on it. You know, I'd just be it's the only thing I'd read about, the only thing I'd learn about. I'd focus on it, I'd study it, and I'd get straight A's in my fish bio class, my reptile class, whatever. And then, you know, chemistry 101, I'm 16, 17, whatever it is, years old when you go on college tour, you know? The only college I go tour is UCSB. And I'm like getting more and more bored walking around UCSB, hearing about, you know, the whole of arts and lectures or whatever. So I bail. I just sneak off from the tour group. And I just bail out from the tour group and start walking around, showing myself around. All of a sudden, I'm like, damn, there's a lot of hot chicks here. Like, oh, cool. There's the rugby program. Like, I was a big rugby player. So I'm like, there's a rugby program. Sick. I could play rugby. And I'm like poking around, like just cruising by myself, being a little and walk into this building. And I'm walking through this building, and all of a sudden I look through a window, and there's like a huge terrarium filled with stick insects.
A terrarium?
Like a reptile cage.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but this one was filled with stick insects. Do you know what those are?
No.
It's like a bug that looks like a stick. And so I see this.
I'll pull that up on. Keep going.
Yeah, go for it. So I see this big cage filled with stick bugs, and I'm like, oh, sick. I love stick insects. And I was always a nerd. Like, I tried to cover it up by playing rugby and, you know, being funny and cool and all that, but I was always a big nerd.
They're huge.
Some of them, yeah, that's the gargantuan stick insect. But some of them are small. There's a ton of species. And I see this terrarium. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that's cool. Like, this is at a UCSB, office. So I walk around from the window where I spot it, open the door, and let myself into this room. And it's some guy's office. You know, there's a desk, there's piles of papers and a computer and this terrarium filled with stick insects. And I'm like peeking around. I'm such a little shit. You know, I'm like 17 years old, peeking around. I'm looking, and this guy walks in, big burly guy, big beard, booming voice. And he goes, what are you doing in my office? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, but did you know that you have a giganticus here? And there's also, you know, it's kind of interesting. This shouldn't be a mixed species habitat because these ones are more aggressive than these and blah, blah. And this guy just listens to me, and he listens and goes, what's your name, boy? And I'm like, oh, my name's Forrest Galante, sir. Like, blah, blah, blah. You know, still very polite and respectful, even though I was a shithead because I was raised in this very strict Zimbabwean school system. And he's like, what's your name, boy? And I'm like, oh, my name's Forrest Galante, sir, blah. He's like, you're in my office, blah, blah, blah. And so he listens to me like rattle off a bunch of facts about stick bugs. And I'm like, you know, you probably shouldn't mix ones from Asia with ones with Africa. These ones are more aggressive. You know, these ones are more dominant, blah, 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 blah. He's just sort of listening quietly, this big guy, booming voice. Asked me for my name. I was, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm on. He's like, well, what, you know, what program are you in? I was like, oh, I'm not. I'm in high school. And I'm, you know, looking to go to, like, on college tour here. He's like, write your name down. What's your GPA? Down. Yeah, he asked all these things. And so he didn't ask me about my grades. But turns out, long story made short, I was in the dean, I think it was the dean, but I was in one of the professors of the College of Creative Studies, which was like this experimental program. I was in his office, this experimental program for kids that had peculiar interests in a way, like almost advanced, like an honors program, but kids that were really special. There was a kid when I was there who was 13 years old who started at UCSB. There was a woman there who had won like some crazy, you know, kid degree in physics, and she was building rockets and shit. And just by pure happenstance, I snuck into this guy's office. He was the professor of entomology of insects. I started prattling off all these facts, and he liked me because here was this 15-year-old kid talking about stick bugs and teaching him a thing or two. I don't know if I really did, but he pretended I did, about stick bugs. He contacted my high school and said, we want to get this kid in here. So they let me in on academic probation. Yeah, and it was the only school I applied to or anything. And they let me into UCSB because I had shit grades on academic probation into this specialized school. I had to write an essay. I had to explain. I'd been a good student in Zimbabwe, but then I came over here and I was a shithead.
You guys didn't beat me with a cane, so
I had to explain it all. Yeah, but it all kind of worked out. So I ended up going to UCSB.
Did your girl get in?
My girl got in.
Right,
yeah,
that's good.
Yep. So we were together, and typical college relationship kind of thing. Blah blah blah. But all was good, and there are schools that offer this, I think, Clemson and places like that, where you can be hands-on with wildlife, which is all I ever wanted. UCSB didn't offer that, and it was the only place I could go. So I went to UCSB instead of heading back to Zimbabwe to be a safari guide. naturally, if I can't be hands-on with animals, I'll be a biologist, right? Like I get to work, be a wildlife biologist. So I went into the biology program, had a roller coaster of college, but tons of fun. You know, played on the rugby team all 4 years. You know, was involved with a frat and chased girls around and all the stuff you do in college. But
So you took a little break.
well, not really, but you know, like college, you know,
just-
college.
okay.
But no
Gotcha.
real break was taken. But you know, college, you know, I'm not going to go
An
into detail.
unofficial break.
Yeah, and you know, just had fun and loved being there. Settled in. By the time I was a junior, my grades had got really good. You know, like I sort of really did turn my life around because I was in a train wreck, right? And it's really thanks to Jessica, my wife, who then was my girlfriend. She really did push me into it.
But you obviously enjoyed the study then. Like there had to be a part of it that you're like, you know what, this is applicable to what I want to do.
It's crazy, and I see these same traits in my older son now. I would go in as a freshman in college, and I'd go talk to the herpetology professor, and I'd say, look,
Herpetology?
study of reptiles and amphibians. Be like, I'm super into herpetology. Can you please, I know. Can you please,
gotta watch that.
And he's like, oh, this is an upper level class. Like you can only be in this if you're a senior, you know. I was like, can you please let me in? And I would end up being the number one student in the class, knowing more than the teachers. I'd read through the whole herpetology manual in like a day or two. Like, it sounds like a beautiful mind thing, but then I'd get like an F in like biology 101 because I just wasn't interested in like how does the mitochondrial DNA affect a cell, and I just
Right.
you know. So it was like I had these. My grades were fine in the end, whatever. But the things I was interested in, I'd go just like you in podcasting.
Yes.
I'd just go nuts on it. You know, I'd just be so. It's the only thing I'd read about, the only thing I'd learn about. I'd focus on, I'd study it, and I'd get straight A's in my fish bio class, my reptile class, whatever. And then, you know, chemistry 101, I like would barely scrape by with like a D minus, you know, because I just didn't care. So I always was on this track of like, I want to work with wildlife. And I figured if I couldn't do it hands-on as a safari guide, I'd do it as a biologist, and I'd fix the world as a wildlife biologist. Turns out when you come out of college, you don't just save the world like you think you're going to. So that took a little figuring out.
Yeah, what are the common places you can kind of break in outside of, you know, somehow landing a TV show and all that? We'll get to that. But
Yeah.
you know, you come out of college with a degree like that. What kinds of jobs are you looking to take as like the entry level?
It's kind of crazy because you think when you're studying that and you're in those programs that you're going to come out of college and get this awesome $100,000 a year job and write papers and save the planet and study animals. I came out of college broke, no job. I traveled for a while, whatever. But then when I got back, I went in as a biotech, you know, so a biology technician. I was basically a high-paid gardener. I was pulling weeds. I was killing ants. I was surveying habitat, but surveying sounds so sexy. It was literally like walking around in jeans, getting stung by poison oak, going, oh, there's a weed, there's a weed.
Yeah.
So those entry-level jobs are rough. And you're like in the field all day, in the sun, cooking, studying things. But I love that. Like I'll take that over sitting, you know, at a desk any day of the week. So I was thriving doing that, but it doesn't have a lot of long-term potential. And this is one of the problems with the system, and the system is broken. If you're really good at that, if you're really good at field science and wildlife biology like that, then you progress to sitting in an office, writing papers, having a team of biotechs under you, applying for grants, and you don't end up doing the stuff that you're good at, which is being in the field. And it's a really messed up, broken system in wildlife biology. I'm writing a book on it right now, actually. And it's
Just on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's on like renegade biologists and like conservation cowboys that kind of like break the mold, and it's pretty cool. Like I interview a lot of really interesting people, but the problem is the system is flawed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels like, and this is just one example of many, but when you look at a lot of these, I mean, when you look at a lot of these different fields and how they were set up over decades and decades and decades, it's almost like we got to this point where, well, this is just the way things are done.
Yeah.
And people would ask the question like, well, why do we do it? No, you don't ask that. You don't get to ask that.
That's right.
So this is just what it is.
That's right.
You know, this is the system we have. And now, you know, in this era of having the internet and being able to connect with people around the world and show people what you're doing, you have a lot of people like yourself, you know, like to use your word, like a renegade kind of like, hey, I'm good at this thing. I don't know why people are doing this shit this way.
Right.
Here's another way we could do it. Doesn't even mean you're right about everything, but you can at least ask the questions and get attention for that. And maybe like, you know, everyone talks about breaking these systems, but maybe like just resetting them a little bit over time. Because I feel like as a country, like looking at this US centric, being able to have great academic institutions and great research centers and great ways to like kind of push the ball forward is very important, but we got to get with the times.
That's right.
On so much of it, right?
And not just that, but this is the United States where you can make a career doing anything you choose if you give your all to it, right? That's what we stand for as a free nation, as a free country, as a free market. And in the sciences, in academia, it's crazy because if you think that way, you're belittled and ostracized, and probably not just the sciences, that's just what I know, and you have to follow the path. But we live in a place with freedom of speech. So as long as you're able to go out there and make your mark, and you're doing it ethically and responsibly, I'm not saying, you know, go Tiger King, you know, but if you're working if you're working with wildlife and you're doing it in a responsible way to educate people, you're doing that on Instagram or TikTok, I don't care. These people that like belittle TikTok, screw them, man. Like if you're getting millions of people to watch you do some kids on TikTok to fall in love with wildlife, be a TikTok hero, be a TikTok biologist. Who cares? Like if you get 10 million views on your TikTok video fiddling with a snake and you're teaching the audience about that snake or its conservation status, you've done so much more than the scientist who published a paper that he got a grant for that worked on it for 6 years that 200 people are going to read.
And has $10 words every other word. It's just like, I completely agree, man.
And there's a place in the world for both. I'm not saying stop the real hard science, but the fact that it's belittling the people that are bringing exposure and love and passion to wildlife, I think is nuts.
I was talking, I'm not going to say who, but I was talking with someone recently who I wanted to have on the show, who right now is not going to come on. Great guy. But he's dealing with the same thing because he's extremely charismatic. He's very good in the field that he's in. And he understands how to speak to the younger generations extremely well because he's a younger guy.
Yeah.
But he's getting so much pressure behind the scenes from like the old guard to be like, well, you're going to do a PhD program and do this stuff. So this is what we do. We don't talk to those people. That's beneath us or whatever.
Yep.
And it's like, to your point, you know, over in China where TikTok is like from, they have their kids because they're a communist government. They get to like force what their kids do.
Sure.
This is the one good thing. That, like I'm not into communism, but this is the one advantage they have. They turn off TikTok at like 9 o'clock at night for their kids. So they go to bed and get a good night's sleep. And their kids watch like fun science, nature, and learning videos.
I've seen
you know what I mean?
And TikTok is like an educational platform in China, allegedly.
And they allegedly. I haven't been over there to check it out, but that's what I hear. So they make it fun. So, you know, we do have freedom here for kids to watch titty videos too. But if there's more Forrest Galantes in the feed, actually like teaching them something and making, I don't know, science fun for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would have been awesome if Bill Nye the Science Guy had TikTok when I was growing up. You know what I mean?
Fantastic. Now all we need to do is bring the titties into nature.
Yes.
Like just combine them and then we'll get all the eyeballs. Yeah.
All right. So you start though, as you said, on these like, you know, the lower entry level jobs. You're out there as a statistical surveyor or whatever.
Yep.
And then you ended up connecting with Discovery Channel, I think, right? Was that the first one?
Over a very long process.
How did that even happen? What was that first show you did too?
So I'm working as a biotech, mostly on the California Channel Islands. If you look at the California Channel Islands, aside from Catalina, they're all very wild and very rugged.
Catalina wine mixers.
That's it. Yeah. Catalina's great, by the way. But I was working on the northern islands, San Miguel, Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, and Anacapa. And they're very rugged, very remote. I'm in hazmat suits carrying tons of Roundup, which is like a spray pesticide chemical, killing weeds. Literally counting ants, like to figure out how many invasive ants, like spending a day going 143,000, I swear to God, 143,006, 143,007. Like literally, this is what the kind of stuff I was doing in 100-degree heat in a base camp with no hot water. You know, we had electricity. This was pre-Starlink. There's no internet, no cell phone service, like grinding it out.
Oh my God.
So I'm painting that picture because one day I come back. So we go on 2-week stints at a time at the islands, right? And it didn't just work on the islands, but that was the hardest work. We go on these 2-week stints on the island where you're in a hazmat suit, you're carrying weeds, counting ants, trapping rats, like shitty stuff, because I'm a low-down biologist. And I was doing really well. I kept getting asked to move into the office and like oversee a team. And I tried it a couple times and I was like, this sucks. I want to be back in the field. Like I'll go back to counting ants before I sit in the air conditioned office and like put together grant proposals. Like
Counting ants.
I'd rather count ants.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.